In old Baghdad, perfume wasn't just for looking good. It was a political tool, a deadly weapon, and sometimes even a death sentence. Imagine being given a bottle of perfume, smelling it, and then dying hours later, with people at your funeral saying, "Mashallah, he was classy even in death." In this video, we'll take a trip through the streets of Abbasid Baghdad and reveal how these scented perfumes turned into assassination tools. One of the strangest chapters in Islamic history. Don't forget to subscribe to support us and drop your country's name in the comments so I can pray for you and your family's peace and well-being. Now, turn off the lights, take a deep breath, and let's start this boring story you probably won't smell anything like again. In Baghdad, perfumes weren't just for decoration, and musk wasn't a sign of luxury. Sometimes it was a subtle announcement that someone was going to die that night. In the Abbasid court, scents were a form of judgment. Bottles weren't gifts out of generosity. They were tests. You'd put a little on your hand and then the end would come without you even realizing it. The killers were perfume makers, and poison dissolved in rose water, not in the cup. Crimes were hidden behind phrases like, "maybe a sudden illness." There's a story about a minister who drank coffee in the morning, then used a perfume gifted by the caliph, and that was the last thing he ever did. He died in the afternoon on his prayer rug. The doctor said it was shortness of breath. The margin notes said the air was humid. As for the perfume, it had evaporated along with the truth. In fact, some perfumes were made to kill slowly. They're sprayed on clothes and absorbed through the pores, and after a week the body quietly starts to fail. In Baghdad, it wasn't about what you ate but what you smelled. And a nice scent wasn't always a comfort. Sometimes it was a sign that you were the target. People used to say in political circles, if you want to kill without bloodshed, use a perfume. Not everyone who died in Baghdad died because they were sick. Some died smiling, thinking their life was safe because the perfume on their chest was called Sultan's Treasure. The Abbasid intelligence recruited perfumers and asked them to create deadly, elegant scents. A person dies while smelling the Damascus rose. It's said they made a perfume called Breeze of Paradise. But it didn't lead to paradise. It led straight to the grave, leaving no trace of weapons or enemies. Some palaces had little lanterns that released perfume into the air. To visitors, it seemed like a classy artistic touch, but it was actually a way to test your political loyalty. If you smelled it and weren't affected, you were considered loyal. But if you started coughing or lost consciousness, they'd say you had a weak heart. Then you'd be wrapped in a prayer rug and buried after your story was twisted. It got so bad that even the caliphs themselves began to distrust any perfume bottle coming from outside the palace, even if it was sealed with a poet's name. Some spies used to mock their victims by giving them a tiny bottle labeled, "This perfume will make you immortal in memory." And ironically, some of those victims actually died. We still remember them today, not because they were great, but because they inhaled something deadly. Over time, perfumes stopped being just a means of killing and became a psychological weapon used to intimidate opponents before a single word was said. Just walking into a minister's office, placing a musk bottle on the table, and saying a gift from the caliph was enough to make his heart race before even opening it. Some innocent people even refused to use perfume their whole lives, fearing they'd end up like those before them. Because of all this, a new social class emerged in Baghdad. There were perfume experts who were called upon to test fragrances before the high officials, and they used to be called human rats. No one wanted to become one of them. The worst part was that some perfumes didn't just kill the body, they caused delirium, madness, and hallucinations. It's said that a state judge sprayed himself with a suspicious perfume gifted by a merchant from Damascus. He spent a whole week issuing strange rulings, like saying goats could lead people in prayer if they recited loudly. The judge was dismissed and died 2 months later. But no one dared investigate the source of that perfume because the Damascene merchant bore the caliph's own seal. And so, the scents kept filling the gatherings in Baghdad, but no one smelled them without worry. That's why an old poet once said, "I prefer the smell of dust over a gift from the palace in Baghdad." Perfumes weren't just tools for killing. They were masks hiding faces and whispers that confused minds. In a court where trust was rare, suspicion grew with every whiff of fragrance, and anyone who wore a new perfume became either a target of surveillance or the watcher themselves. There's a story about Abu al-Abbas, a famous perfumer known for his skill in blending scents that mimicked nature with astonishing accuracy. One day, Abu al-Abbas was making a special perfume for the caliph. It was said to refresh the spirit and take away worries. But Abu al-Abbas, who had insight beyond just his sense of smell, noticed that the orders to make it came from a minister known for his cunning and scheming. Suspecting something, Abu al-Abbas didn't use pure oils. Instead, he added some hidden ingredients that didn't kill but caused temporary forgetfulness and slight confusion. He knew the caliph would use the perfume and that the minister would try to take advantage of any moment of weakness. Sure enough, after a few days of wearing the perfume, the caliph started forgetting small details, mixing up names, and sometimes giving conflicting orders. No one noticed anything serious. They just thought he was tired or getting old. But the minister began exploiting this confusion, pushing decisions that benefited him and quietly getting rid of some of his rivals. Abu al-Abbas watched silently, seeing how his perfume, which didn't harm the body, was killing the caliph's memory and weakening his power at the right moment. When the caliph's confusion got worse, Abu al-Abbas stepped forward and told him the truth about the perfume, that he had made it to cause this hidden effect. The caliph was shocked but understood the truth. Instead of punishing Abu al-Abbas, he rewarded his wisdom and ordered the removal of the deceitful minister. But Abu al-Abbas went back to his shop, though he no longer made perfumes with the same fuss. He realized that even if a perfume wasn't poison, it could still be a tool to control people's fates. In another story, there was a beautiful servant girl in the palace, known for her beauty and the strong scent of her perfume that filled the place. But she was actually a spy for a neighboring country, using her perfume as a code. She'd wear one type of scent if the news was good, another if there was a conspiracy brewing, and a third if there was a threat to the state. These signals were understood by other spies who sneaked into the palace disguised as merchants or visitors. One day, a strange perfume spread through the palace. No one knew where it came from, but it had a rare scent unlike anything anyone had smelled before. This perfume was the servant girl's way of signaling that a serious danger was looming over the caliph. One guard, who had a keen sense of smell, noticed the strange scents kept appearing and started connecting them to events happening around the palace. He followed the servant girl and uncovered the spy network. She was arrested and her plots were exposed. From then on, her perfume became known in Baghdad as the perfume of betrayal. Anyone who smelled a strange scent in the palace would get uneasy. In Baghdad, scents weren't just for decoration. They were a secret language, masks hiding faces and whispers told in the dark. Every whiff of perfume carried a story, and every bottle was a box of secrets yet to be revealed. In Baghdad, tales of deadly perfumes weren't just about the palaces and corridors of power. They stretched into the secret world of perfumers. Knowing scents was both an art and a science, and sometimes a curse. Every perfumer had his secrets, and every scent had a story told only within the walls of his old shop. There was an old perfumer named Murad who was famous for his amazing blends that could awaken memories and restore youth. But few knew he inherited ancient knowledge about poisonous scents that were neither sold nor mentioned. Murad carried a dangerous secret, recipes for deadly perfumes passed down from his ancestors, who were doctors and poisoners in the old Persian court. He never used them, having sworn never to turn his art into a tool of death. One day, a strange man showed up, carrying a royal seal, and asked Murad to create a unique perfume. Not one that kills the body outright, but one that slowly weakens mind and body, filling the wearer with hallucinations. Walihan figured out that this perfume wasn't just for decoration. It had a sneaky purpose: to get rid of an important person without raising any suspicion. Murad remembered his faith, but his fear of the Sultan's anger was stronger than his beliefs. He had no choice but to make the perfume as the strange man asked, but he secretly added another ingredient that would slowly cancel out the poison and make it evaporate after a few days without leaving a deadly trace. He gave the bottle to the man, his heart heavy with pain, afraid he might have been part of a crime. Weeks later, news spread about a mysterious illness hitting one of Baghdad's princes, making him delirious and weak, but miraculously he survived. No one understood what had happened except Murad, the perfumer, who quietly thanked God that he hadn't broken his promise. Not all forbidden perfumes were deadly. Some were banned because of the effect they had on feelings and emotions, especially in conservative Baghdad society. There's a story about a young female perfumer who made a scent said to awaken love sleeping in the hearts of men and women. Her small bottles were sold secretly and caused chaos in the quiet homes of Baghdad. If you disobeyed the perfume, the city's governor heard about it and saw it as a threat to social order and public morals. The governor ordered the arrest of the young perfumer, sentenced her to exile from Baghdad, and banned the sale of any perfume made from her formula. But the secret of the love perfume didn't die with her departure. Women passed it on in secret, and its scent kept whispering through the nights, reminding everyone that perfumes hold power beyond just decoration. So, in the dark alleys of Baghdad and its grand halls, perfumes kept telling hidden stories about poisons lurking in the smell of roses, secrets hidden in musk drops, and the human struggle between strength and weakness, betrayal and loyalty. Every whiff of perfume in that city wasn't just a scent. It was a whisper of history being written both in secret and in plain sight. In Baghdad, it wasn't just the palace gatherings that were battlegrounds for perfume intrigues. Suspicion and doubt spread even to common homes. Every perfumer became a suspect. Every bottle of perfume raised 1,000 questions. After tales of hidden poisons and deceiving scents, a good smell became a bad omen, and people started taking strange measures to protect themselves from this invisible weapon. Perfume traders lived in constant fear. It wasn't enough anymore for a perfume to just be high quality. They had to provide a certificate of purity with every bottle. Some sellers even forced themselves to put drops of the perfume right in front of customers, waiting to see their reaction to prove the scent wasn't harmful. Others would bring in those so-called human guinea pigs we mentioned earlier to their shops to testify publicly that the perfume was safe. This harsh scene showed just how deep the mistrust had taken hold in the city. But even these measures weren't enough. Fear had settled deep in people's hearts, and they started believing the poison might act slowly or only show effects after some time. Some wealthy folks began raising small animals, like cats or birds, in their rooms, placing the new perfumes in front of them before using the scents themselves, waiting to see if the animals showed any strange signs before feeling safe enough to try the perfumes. The houses in Baghdad were slowly turning into little labs of doubt and suspicion. Even the caliphs and princes, who were the main source of these plots, weren't safe from the traps of mistrust they wove. The caliph stopped trusting any perfume sent to him, even if it came from his closest people. He ordered a special room in the palace called the perfume testing room, where any new scent had to sit for several days and go through complicated tests by doctors and chemistry experts before the caliph was allowed to smell it. The palace, once a symbol of luxury and beauty, was becoming a fortress against scents. Amid this obsession with safety, other tragic stories emerged. There was a poor young man named Salem, a talented perfume maker who inherited his ancestors' craft. He made pure perfumes with wildflower and clean musk scents, and his customers were ordinary folks who didn't fear palace intrigues. But Salem dreamed of having his perfume reach the caliph to prove his worth and skill. He created a unique perfume using rare flowers never before known in Baghdad. Its scent was captivating and completely different from any other. He took it to the palace as a humble gift for the caliph, hoping it would be liked. He had no idea that his creation would become a curse for him. The caliph, as soon as he caught a whiff of the unfamiliar scent, was filled with intense anxiety. It wasn't the poison that scared him, but the unknown. Salem explained honestly about the rare flowers used in the perfume, but the caliph and his court didn't believe him. They thought it was some new trick, a slow-acting poison or something that caused madness. Salem was thrown in prison and subjected to harsh interrogations. He kept insisting he was innocent and that his perfume was just a nice fragrance, but fear had blinded everyone's hearts and minds. In the end, Salem was executed, accused of trying to harm the caliph with a suspicious scent. His death was a harsh lesson for perfumers in Baghdad. Creativity in the world of scents could be more dangerous than plotting with words. But the story didn't end with death. Some fragrances caused deep social divides. Only the rich could afford to buy perfumes after they were tested, creating a new layer of discrimination in Baghdad society. People joked that the poor didn't fear perfume because they had nothing to die for. Over time, because of all these scary stories, the perfume industry in Baghdad started to decline as people lost trust in scents. The perfumers' shops became deserted or turned into places selling incense and herbal remedies, far from any suspicion. Baghdad, which was once the center of fine perfumes, became a city where people preferred the smell of its ordinary dust over any scent coming from the palaces. And just like that, the era of perfumes in Baghdad ended, not because of a lack of flowers or the perfumer's skill, but because of the power of doubt and fear that turned the most beautiful scents into the scariest weapons. In that city, a good smell became a silent witness to the end of an age of luxury and beauty and the beginning of an era of caution and suspicion. Fear of a perfume bottle was greater than fear of a drawn sword, and every spray became a bad omen. The perfume industry declined, and its beauty hid behind walls of mistrust. The shops that once overflowed with the aroma of musk and amber became empty, burying the secrets of old recipes in the folds of forgetfulness. But even in the darkest times of doubt, hope is born from despair, and some challenge the darkness with the light of their insight. There was an old perfumer named Nasser al-Hakim, whose fame didn't come from palace perfumes, but from scents that healed weary souls and lifted worries. He made his perfumes from rare herbs. Nasser believed that perfume was a message of peace, not a tool for death. He'd seen all the disasters that had hit his craft and watched how his ancient art turned into something haunted by killing and exile. In people's eyes, he saw fear with every breath, and in their hearts, the bitterness of losing trust in one of life's greatest joys, the sweet smell of good perfume. After years of isolation, Nasser decided to fight back against this growing fear. He wasn't after money or fame. He wanted to restore dignity to his craft and to the pure spirit of perfume. He started a big project called Healing Scents, a unique blend of pure essential oils with no toxins, meant to calm nerves, help patients sleep, and even ease body pain. He didn't give these out as suspicious gifts but sold them as medicine with a price tag. Nasser opened a modest little shop in a neighborhood far from the palace's watchful eyes. But word started to spread among everyday folks who had lost hope in traditional medicine. He insisted every customer smell the perfume right in front of them and spend some time in his shop to feel its effects. Speaking softly, he'd explain the benefits of each scent, the peace lavender brings, the energy boost from mint. Slowly, people began to trust him, little by little, because they saw with their own eyes that he was hiding nothing and that his perfumes only brought good. But Nasser's journey wasn't easy. The Abbasid intelligence agents, who were used to using perfumes as weapons, started to suspect his activities. How could a perfume be safe in a time of hidden plagues? Nasser was brought before the minister and accused of spreading fake perfumes to mislead people, and maybe even hiding more dangerous poisons. Nasser stood firm and asked the minister to try the perfume Calm Spirit that he made himself. The minister hesitated, but his curiosity won over his fear. He put a drop on his hand, and a calm scent filled the room. The minister felt a strange peace he hadn't felt in a long time. He wasn't poisoned. Instead, he felt calm. He realized that what Nasser was offering wasn't poison, but the opposite. But that wasn't enough to undo decades of fear. The minister ordered Nasser to continue his work, but under strict supervision, and banned him from selling his perfumes near the palaces or to influential people. It was a small victory, but it showed Nasser that the road to rebuilding trust would be long and hard. So Nasser the Wise, the perfumer of hope, kept working quietly. He lit a small candle in the sea of darkness created by doubt. Baghdad had not yet. She completely recovered from her obsession with hidden poisons, but a glimmer of hope began to creep into some hearts. Amid the ashes of burnt perfumes, a new story started to unfold. A story about the power of scent that revives the soul, and about a perfumer who believed the most beautiful fragrances are those that don't kill but bring life. In Baghdad, where the pure scent of perfumes faded away, replaced by the smoke of doubt, every bottle came to carry a story of fear. The road to regaining trust wasn't easy. Nasser al-Hakim faced massive resistance because wounds of the soul run deeper than those of the body, and memory holds onto fear more than hope. But the story of perfumes in Baghdad wasn't meant to end with mere suspicion or denial. It was meant to stand as proof that truth, like a rare fragrance, will find its way to spread no matter how long it takes. After many years of quiet work, and after Nasser's healing perfumes proved their effectiveness and purity among ordinary people, whispers of trust slowly began to seep into the palace halls. It wasn't a loud revolution but a subtle change. Many of the elite had grown weak from living in an atmosphere of anxiety and suspicion. Some had heard of Nasser's healing perfumes, but fear of stigma or accusation kept them from. One day, the caliph fell ill with a mysterious disease that the doctors couldn't diagnose or treat. He had trouble sleeping and kept waking up from nightmares, and his body grew weak. Then I remembered one of my old maid's stories about Nasser the Wise and his perfumes. I whispered in the minister's ear about the soul-calming perfume, which is said to soothe the body and mind. The minister hesitated, but Elias pushed him to give it a try. Nasser the Wise was summoned to the palace. The calm old man entered carrying a small, simple glass bottle, not fancy like the palace's usual containers. He put a drop on a silk handkerchief and asked the caliph to inhale deeply. The caliph hadn't worn any perfume for years out of fear, but desperate, he took the chance. He breathed in a pleasant scent. Unlike the usual dislike he had for wildflowers mixed with a light musk, there was no trace of trickery or poison in it. That night, the caliph slept peacefully for the first time in months. He wasn't fully healed, but calmness seeped into his soul. The dozes continued, and with each whiff, the caliph gradually regained his strength. He realized perfume wasn't always a tool of death. It could be a key to life and peace. Nasser wasn't rewarded with gold or titles, but the caliph issued a decree. Rarely, a royal decree restored respect for pure perfume making and allowed trusted perfumers to work freely under the supervision of a new medical committee, away from the control of intelligence agencies. This wasn't the end of the story. Far from it. Doubt doesn't just disappear by royal order, but it was a fresh start. Skilled perfumers, who had inherited their authentic craft in secret, began to re-emerge. They started sharing knowledge and formulas, working to revive the art of pure perfumes that weren't about making money. The scents of rose, jasmine, and musk returned to Baghdad's markets, but this time with a scent of trust. People began asking about the source of the perfume and the name of its maker, not out of fear of poison, but out of care for its purity and quality. Even the human rats, who used to test poisons, found new roles. They became known as scent experts, able to tell pure perfumes from those tainted by the shadows of suspicion. And the tales of deadly perfumes? They turned into mere stories told to children, teaching them to be wary of betrayal and deceit. Those stories weren't forgotten. They became part of Baghdad's rich history, showing how even the simplest things can be deadly weapons in the hands of tyrants, or sources of healing and hope when held by the wise. In the end, Baghdad stayed the city of perfumes, but this time with a deeper awareness, understanding that a scent, like a word, holds great power. It can mislead and kill, or revive and inspire. The power isn't in the bottle, but in the heart of the one who carries it and the intention of the one who smells it. That's why every whiff of perfume in Baghdad today isn't just a scent. It's a whisper from the past, a lesson from the present, and a fragrance reminding us that memory, like fine perfume, never fades or gets forgotten. It stays alive in every breath and every story,